first conceptualized 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, according to various different sources. Chinese martial arts reign as one of the very first systems of unarmed self-defense and offense in human history. Among them, there exists a more recent Chinese martial art known as Wing Chun. 200 to 300 years ago, Wing Chun Kun, translating to the everlasting springtime fist, was created by a Buddhist nun who opted to use the Centerline theory to incapacitate her opponents. The Centerline theory in of itself is a theory that states which a human being has two center lines, a vertical center line and a horizontal center line. That is of which most momentum will come from in the human body. Via manipulation over their own center lines, that being the vertical and horizontal center lines, a person is capable of using power within their body to incapacitate another person. Furthermore, the Centerline theory suggests that the most important ways of moving the body when within a stance are forward and backwards, rather than using diagonal movement. However, as combat sports and martial arts evolve, such a concept has been deemed as out of date to many modern martial artists, and for good reason as well. By going through a process as simple as stepping off of center line by assuming diagonal movement, a person is able to avoid any, if not all, attacks coming toward them which follow the centerline theory. It is much like trying to communicate in two different languages. But how does one use the centerline? What is the centerline in and of itself? The centerline is, in essence, a line that a person and their opponent create by facing one another eye to eye. Should a movement fall off of the center line, whether it be an attack or form of defense, it will no longer subscribe to the theory, thus falling out of place. Howbeit, this does not debunk the existence of the centerline theory's efficacy, as any attack following a linear pathway will subscribe to the centerline theory, whether it be a punch, kick, or takedown. Anything following that afterwards that simply does not compute with it just negates it, like slipping off center line or using footwork. Should two martial artists subscribe to being in stance and attacking on the center line, it is the most likely that the longest, fastest weapon will win. This is why Bruce Lee was so infatuated with sidekicks. They were one of his fastest kicks and one of his longest weapons. However, if one person is committed to the center line while the other is not, using diagonal movement, it is likely that the one moving off center line will win, even if the other has a longer weapon. Though, that would only be in relation to striking itself, not even accounting for level shifting. Grappling can also be part of the centerline theory, as most stances in grappling have a more based, forward, and squared positioning. Having the longer, faster, and sharper weapon does help significantly, yes, but level shifting must not be ignored when talking about the centerline theory.